Greetings, fellow travelers, and welcome to the Way of the Showman, where we view the world through the lens of showmanship. I am Captain Frodo, and I will be your gracious host and guide along the way. As this episode airs, I am not at home. I am out performing in Rotterdam, and I will have more to say about that at some other episode. But needless to say, I'm very excited about it. It's been a long project. In fact, it first sort of instigated this idea from my friend Menno van Dijk from the Juggling Tango act, which some of you might know. And we've spent a few seasons together at Circus Nemo in Denmark, and even did a gig in Athens one time where we coincidentally ended up on the same roster, which was very fun. Anyway, he has become appointed the artistic director of Circusstad, a new circus, contemporary circus festival in Rotterdam, and he proposed putting together a performance, a show, together with two women, one woman from Holland and one woman which I'm certain when I'm saying it, but one of them is from Germany originally, I think. Yeah. So anyway, that's of course when I'm making this stuff on the fly, then who knows what kind of details I might forget or not forget. But there you'll hear a lot more about that, and where people come from is beside the point. What we are doing together, that's the exciting thing, and we are been charged with the task of using Freak Show as a performance for families. So in the way that Circus Barnley and the material that I've done for a kids show that we did in Denmark, that was kind of circus for families. But that's a well established territory for the entertainment, circus entertainment. It fits great for kids. Anyway, we don't want to go too far into that, but Freak Show, the elements that comes from the freak shows, we are doing sword swallowing, we're doing a hair hang, we're doing an aerial chain act, and I'm doing the human blockhead and explaining it with the spoon up the nose, as some of you might have seen me do that with La Soirée or on Danish television for the Queen. But anyway, all of that is just like, it's a very exciting kind of prospect, and I will be looking forward to talk to you about how that has panned out, because you can only imagine how the kids will take it and the families will take it, because that's the most important thing, I think, is to present it so that the adults thinks it's okay for the kids to watch, because the kids find it quite exciting just in general or so. But as I have become a parent myself, I am certainly becoming aware of this thing that you do where you go, oh, it's so cold outside, I am cold, so before you go out, you have to put on a jacket, even though you run around and jump on a trampoline and go absolutely bananas, and I'm just mainly standing there pretending not to look at my phone or think about something else. But be that as it may, it's exciting. It's the beginning of May here in Europe, and that means that spring will be springing, coming real hard. Green leaves on the trees have just started to arrive, even now that it's a little bit before the beginning of May. It's the end of April, so it's all very exciting. But let me keep this relatively short and let us dive back to where we left up in the last episode of this, where we were talking about reverence. And the topic of today is that we're going to try to look at what you want your audience to feel, and this mirroring of emotions and mirroring of attitudes. Okay, we'll get to that right after this. I started saying that last episode, and I found it a little bit funny because it made me feel like I'm on some radio station and I play this really short jingle. So after that, let's get started. Let's get started on that right after this. I'll edit that out later so it sounds more professional. Reverence and Relationships Part 2. What do you want your audience to feel? Now, the experience of awe is a complex emotion. It has a flavor of fear mixed with healthy doses of wonder and reverence. And if we created an act with these three emotional components, like if we kept those things in mind, like what would cause fear, what would cause wonder and reverence, like would the audience experience awe if our act contained those other three components? I find this a very sort of valid question, and it's a technique that I sometimes use in my creative process, because I always ask myself what I want the audience to experience. Whether this is something I achieve in every performance is almost certainly another matter. Why do I always sort of question myself like that? But anyway, at the end of the day, I have very little control over the spectator's sort of final experience, but I can strain myself to influence it. And the interpretations of a work of art or an act or a show is always endless. And what I do find, though, is that if I have an answer to what I want the audience to feel or the mood that I want to present and thereby instill, my creations seem to speak with a clarity of voice, which is always important. And knowing what your desired outcome is makes you more likely to reach it. In this way, you have a yardstick to measure how well you achieved your intended goal. You'll feel the result in your audience as you perform, or you can listen to what people have to say when you meet them after the show. And circus is particularly suited to certain emotions like fear and wonder, and these are inherent in anything from juggling knives or tight wire walking above the circus ring, sword swallowing and gravity-defying acrobatics and aerial displays. Let us not forget the element of stage fright, as we spoke of in the sort of subchapter on glossophobia in a bunch of episodes ago. Just seeing you step out on stage makes you brave in most people's eyes. They feel reverence already. Not reverence, but they certainly have some respect. Because there is potential for wonder built into any well-presented circus act. And if wonder is the feeling of surprise blended with admiration in response to something beautiful, unexpected, unfamiliar, or inexplicable, I'd say that pretty much describes most circus acts. Any properly explored and developed circus trick would tick one, if not all of those boxes. A girl juggling cigar boxes, a man hanging by his teeth on a strap, a magician making a rabbit levitate beneath a silk scarf, all of these fall squarely into that way of understanding wonder. And fear is directly built into acts like the high wire or when someone juggles chainsaws. But there is a certain kind of fear instilled in an audience as well when a magician asks for a volunteer to come up onto the stage to help him with his next trick. So, as you ask things from your audience, just don't use your audience. If my praise of someone is motivated by a desire to get something from them, then that praise becomes insulting and kind of works in reverse. Rather than making the other feel good, it makes them feel bad. They realize that you were deceiving them. You did not want to praise them. You were trying to manipulate them. You were using them. And few things are as uncomfortable for a human as when you realize someone is deliberately trying to manipulate you to their own ends. Flattery experienced as manipulation can feel like a violation, like being touched against one's will. Our foundational feelings about someone or something guides us in our actions. They also color our everyday interactions. Our true intent bleeds through in so many visible as well as invisible ways. It's the kind of stuff one doesn't pick up necessarily consciously. It's the kind of things you get as a gut feeling. When a first encounter with someone makes you want to keep your distance or not getting into an elevator alone with them, then we might not be able to put our finger on what it is or why, but somehow the sum of impressions does not add up. There is a discord. The audience is in a unique place where they are allowed to stare unapologetically at you, to study you. They're reading you as a book. And no matter how well you think the shiny dust cover that you have painted on and the costume that you wear might dazzle them, they can pry that book open and read you. getting your feelings aligned is the most surefire way to make your gestures, body language, tone, and tension fall into line. And once what's inside you is in accordance with what is expressed on the outside, then we are back at what I claimed was authenticity, where truth can happen between you and the audience. So there we go again, linking it back to something we've talked about before. We always communicate more than what we say. Facial expressions, body language, the tone and timbre of the voice, with its sort of subtle pauses, emphases, inflections of this or that or the other, it all comes together in the mind of the other person like a Gesamtkunstwerk, like a total work of art. It all is just read, and they can feel if there is discord, if it feels like you're not genuinely behind what you say and what you do. And we're always reading others by the sum of all of their verbal and non-verbal communication as a whole. We take it all in and experience the sum of it. If this does not perfectly add up, we experience someone as inauthentic. Unless we are supremely gifted actors, they will feel the discord between what you're saying and what your gestalt, like the truth that you have, is what it is showing, or how you do whatever it is that you do. As we looked into earlier when we talked about the little girl hiding behind the legs of her poet father, it's very hard to fake your true feelings unless you spend an extraordinary amount of time training yourself to pretend you feel different way. You will have tells, as a poker player calls the subtle changes in behavior and demeanors that gives away what an opponent in the game thinks about the cards that they have in their hand. And the easiest solution is to work on yourself until you have an appropriate feeling and attitude for whatever situation you find yourself in. As bad as it is to experience someone's gaze as a violation, I believe we humans have a powerful desire to be seen, to really be seen for who we are. When this happens, it is life-affirming. It gives a feeling of being validated as a person. Being recognized and seen strengthens self-worth. And even if it turns out that the one seeing you doesn't agree with everything they see in you, just to be seen and to feel like you are understood, even if they don't agree, is deeply rewarding. And this is why it is an immensely important part of an illuminated shaman's self-development to gain a deep and embodied experience and understanding of the true nature of the audience, and from this gain a healthy and reverent attitude to receive them in. Since your true feelings and intents, what you really think about someone, invariably will bleed through. So to cultivate a sort of genuine, respectful, appreciative and inviting attitude will not only make you a better performer, but it'll have the excellent side effect of making you a better human being. Work on your real life character at the same time as you're working on your stage character. So let's look at this from this idea of doesn't matter, we got your money now. I think I already talked about that actually. But anyway, as an example of how intent can change everything, let's look at the old-fashioned adage and pet peeve, shorthand for bad attitude in performers in the circus and sideshow, which goes, it doesn't matter now. Matter if you like the show, because we got your money. I encountered this first in literature and documentaries about American sideshows. It always left me with an odd sort of sadness. And the line can be said in a way so it becomes funny, but only as long as the show is over-delivering, and if the true intent is the actual opposite. If it's clear that the audience is getting their money's worth and getting an amazing show, then it becomes funny. Unfortunately, in my experience, this is very rarely the case. You more often see it in shows which underperform. And I want to bring this up here to just share just an example of this line actually working wonders. I worked for Circus Oz for 2 years, in 2004 to 2006, which is where I got to see Tim Caldwell, one of the founders of the legendary Circus Oz, on a nightly basis. And this is the act. Tim Caldwell comes walking through a door which is mounted upside down in the roof. He's dressed as a clown, and his clown shoes mysteriously allow him to walk in the ceiling high up in the majestic big-top cupola like a fly. He walks into an upside-down backstage area with a mirror. So as he comes through the door, he's in a backstage area. There's a desk and a chair, and then he performs a beautiful sort of behind-the-scenes skit where the old clown is getting ready to go on and do a show. He's got his normal gear on, and the jacket is kind of funny because it sort of stays upright like the way it's supposed to be. He walks upside down over to his dressing room table where he sits down, takes off his jacket, hangs it on the back of the chair. And this is in itself a very peculiar sight when somebody in reality is hanging from the roof. To sit down and stay sitting when gravity is pulling you down becomes like a magic trick. And the clown wants to just have a quick drink of whiskey before going on, which is easier said than done when you're upside down. The clown is befuddled by the fact that the whiskey isn't coming out of the bottle, so when he puts it up against his lips, and since for reasons seemingly unbeknownst to him, the whiskey is falling upwards, he pours it out of the bottle and manages then to catch it above his head in a glass as the whiskey falls down towards the circus ring, 10 meters below. Or more, I can't remember. Before drinking it, he says, "Oh, I hope they like the show. I guess it doesn't matter now. We got their money." And the audience laughs because only a couple of minutes into this show, the show has already over-delivered. They've already encountered a genuine and moving clown, which is the embodied soul of the circus. They've walked into the spectacular big top, and they've met all the enthusiastic people who helped seat them, and it's this is a glorious and massive circus experience for them, for kids and adults alike. And it's okay to say it in this setting, because then it just goes on, and he says, "I gotta get ready for the show now, gotta get my makeup on." And he bends over and pushes his face against some carefully placed makeup sponges on the table, and comes back up with his full clown makeup on, just face on the table, up he goes. And then Frank Sinatra's version of My Way starts playing, and he walks over upside down on tracks in the ceiling to the Chinese pole, which is normally something we climb up. And he goes, there's the old pole act. He notices the pole over at the thing, going, I used to climb all the way up to the very top of that pole, he says, pointing downwards. But when you say that, nobody would believe you. And then he walks on over and begins sort of slow climb up it, which of course is going downwards. And meanwhile, Frank Sinatra's song of My Way is playing, and the image is so magical that for the 2 years I was with the company, I did not fail to make me sort of well up. And even just saying it just before, I gone, oh, there it comes. The old clown just facing the other way, following his own way, upside down. The idea is so simple, and the execution so flawless, and the apparatus and the work that went into creating this is absurd. The scene was so huge, so much rigging, the pole, the thing, and then of course the pole act actually started and the whole troupe came running out. But in this moment, that tired trope, "we got your money," became comedy gold, became emotional gold, because it was clear that this was not the true intent of the artist. The true intent and the reality of the situation was the opposite. He didn't have to say that, because everything supported this other thing. So he could have said, "Oh God, I hate all you guys coming in here looking at me like this." But the amount of love that he already had, and that he has had throughout his whole life of creating this, being on the forefront of Tim Caldwell being on the forefront of new circus, of contemporary circus as a thing in the world, you could feel the love. So he could say whatever he wanted. And in this moment, the tired trope, "we got your money," becomes, it shows through what he says. It shows the true intent of the artist, and the true intent and the reality of the situation is, as I said, it was opposite. And more often than not, this trope is just sad, and it demonstrates a manner of thinking which rarely, if ever, produces meaningful art. But like all material left in the hands of a master showman, it can be wonderful. So, now let's move into another aspect of this, namely respect and recognize. Looking at the words respect and recognize as a way to look at what we need to do with our relationship, to explore our relationship with the audience. Because how do we deepen and improve our relationship with our audience? We spoke about it a little bit. One approach that I have used with great result uses two words broken up in a way that reveals deeper understanding of the words and how they can be used to tune our understanding of the audience or any other one or anything else for that matter. The words are respect and recognize. Both words have meanings that we know and use, but by breaking them up with some dashes, then we can see that recognize, and we can also recognize our understanding of these words as well. So respect comes from respectare, which means to see again or to see one more time, to respect. And to recognize is to recognize, to think again or to think one more time. And broken apart like this, the words become keys to open up a new way of understanding them. Both words have the prefix of re, which means once more, afresh or anew, and the activities to be done again is seeing and thinking. And reading the words like this becomes reminders that you need to strip away what you already know and then look and think again. It's a reminder that you need to reassess your relationship. To respect, to look again, is an invitation, an opportunity to look at the others, to look at your audience, at your friend or family again, to take another look and see if you can see more. Can you really see them? Or are you just seeing an image, an abstraction, or an idea that you have of them in your mind? Have they changed and you didn't notice? This is an invitation to separate what of the other is actually not them at all, but rather a part of you, your prejudices and preconceived notions about them projected onto them from you. Ask yourself, are your own ideas, associations, and presuppositions about someone stuck before your eyes like a pair of glasses, showing you more about yourself than about those you look at? To respect is to take off these glasses, to see again what's really there, to attempt to remove our preconceptions. This kind of respecting is a lifelong project, but looking with intent to see more is key in discovering more. This is not just useful for looking at humans, but at any process in the world. To recognize, then, that is to think more closely about what we see. It's to rethink who we see and what we see, to grasp an even bigger picture of what lives under the surface of those we meet, the processes we interact with, and to let our knowledge of the other as a thinking, feeling, and wanting human being become a reality for us. To think again about our audience is the wish to go beyond first impressions. To recognize others is also to recognize ourselves. As we respect and take a new look at someone, we invariably face realizations that something we thought was part of them actually was a part of our own preconceived ideas about them, or that we grasp how intricately we are interconnected with the world so that you can't even separate those things anymore. Let's not forget listening in all the respecting and recognizing. As any observant human being knows, many problems of misunderstanding and miscommunication can disappear by listening more carefully. Listening with a real intent to hear what they are actually saying. This might sound like nothing, but you'll be surprised at how different it is to consciously take in what another person is really saying. One can even listen to what they mean by listening not just to the words. Listening, watching, and experiencing are not passive activities. We talked about this in being a generous thing to be an audience member. When it is passive, it's like when we have the radio on in the background when we are working on something else, when we watch some mindless television and get up to make ourselves a sandwich, comfortable in the knowledge that you won't miss anything of importance in the show. This is valuable to remember when we think of the role of our audience. They're not just passive listeners, but active experiencers. At times, when I have been engaged in this active respecting, recognizing, I've seen the audience like the chorus in a Greek play, where there are many, but they are speaking and being as one, expressing the voice of the gods, which they did in the Greek plays. Their pleasure or displeasure rules over the showman's life and death. You die on stage if they don't like you. And that is not something you think or you see with your everyday normal utilitarian way of looking. You see it by respecting and recognizing. And it can be helpful to pay particular attention to the fact that, like individuals, audiences are feeling, thinking entities with wills and desires of their own. To do so is to step into a deeper conversation with them. As we face an audience, each of these three faculties can be seen and they can be discovered, and each of them is like a connection point. And as we talked about before, like, it's not just a point, there's many different ways that you can connect to that point of thinking. There's many different thoughts that can be in your show that they can pick up on and hook onto, and the same with feelings and the same with desire to do stuff. So these 3 points, they exist in the midway, in the space of interest, and in the show, and that emerges and it carries in it thoughts, feelings, and will, which is an amalgamation of your faculties and the audience's feelings and faculties. Now, the audience and the showman are more alike than you think. We have already spoken about this at length, but since this is one of the main themes, we will touch upon it again. Like we visited it, that they're part of the same process. This I've already spoken about details in a few times actually, but I want to use the fact that we are part of them, like we walked with them until we decided we had something to show, and then turn around to face them, to face the others, like we remember from the manifesto. And the fact that they are a lot like us, we'll use that to glean one more bit of wisdom. The audience is not simply there to celebrate us or drink from our fount of awesomeness. We know that because when we see a show or take part in an event of any kind, this is not our own default position. We'll do well to remember that the audience can be just as self-centered and disagreeable as ourselves. Their agenda is usually just predicated on having fun and feeling good. If you aren't entertaining them, they will go ahead and make their own fun. They want and even expect something from us. That's what they've paid for. I paid good money for this, it better be worth it. This is like the inverse variation of the "we got your money now" line. It's the kind of attitude that a magician meets when some bloke from the audience says, "You can't fool me," and refuses to follow the instructions or keeps looking at your hands, completely ignoring you and refusing to look at your face as you present your act. It's the "come on then, impress me" challenge that you sometimes might get. And this is all a solipsistic, self-centered way of interacting. It is one side demanding from the other. And this is not a good conversation. It's not a dialogue. This is, in a sense, a refusal to participate. It's to see the transaction as one-sided and to only wanting to take from the encounter. Just take from the encounter and not give an inch. Let's not draw anymore. We've already spoken a little bit about that. But we all have encounters like this, both in our shows and in our lives. And to recognize that this kind of selfishness, we perform this experience as a sort of demand for gratification. This is closely related to a performer expecting the audience to worship you for simply being amazing, having amazing skills. I can do this, you can't. Clap. This is where our true intent can change the situation. If we really see them it is my experience that they will also see us. By which I mean they will get us. They see it, they understand us. There will be exceptions, but there is a reason why certain kind of performers gets heckled a lot and others hardly ever. I extremely rarely get any aggressive or derogatory feedback from an audience. I simply do not express much or any kind of challenge. I don't challenge them. I believe that they experience my true intent. And I do not think that I have anything to prove. I am here to serve one purpose, and that is to facilitate an enjoyable, fun, and enriching encounter. I'm here in a way to serve them, but I am simultaneously serving myself because my true purpose is to entertain them with my art. So, by meeting them with our sort of expanded recognition of them, we can expand the experience and the encounter. We see the selfishness, the immediate desires of the crowd, and we know them because they are also our own. We know them and their shadows and the darkness because we recognize the same shortcomings in ourselves. We know and see them, and we see their darkness and even their sins, but we encourage the best in them. I step out onto the stage and speak straight to this higher self version of themselves. I address the better angels of their nature. The best in them is the standard to which we measure our creations, to hint at the possibility of turning away from what makes us smaller, more closed off, less generous and less grateful, to reveal to them the subtle creative edge where they can expand into a greater conversation, firstly with us in the show, but also with themselves and ultimately with the world. This, of course, is similar to when we mentioned was it the last episode? It was actually 2 episodes ago where Teller says they always, in their creations, keep in mind that the audience is smarter than them. That if that's who you're creating the act for, that is what they will see, and that is what they will feel. Even when they're fooling the pants off you, then you have no idea what they were doing. You still feel like they're treating you with respect. I think that shines through for them anyway. But for we know that beyond the selfish expectations and desires for gratification, there is boundless potential when humans get together. The richness of experience is vast, and this is the domain that we aim to invite them into, and sharing a special time in a special space with many facing the one in shared attention. This is the birthplace of all great human experiences. Art, religion, learning, community, connections, mythology, and culture. Culture itself springs from the genuine meetings of people. This dimension, this grand view of our craft is nearer when we have respected, re-seen, and recognized, rethought our relationships. With this kind of reverent attitude to our audience and the activities of shows and of show with capital S, show itself, we create art of a different order than the base "look at me, I'm better than you" starting point order. Sort of another aspect of it is just a sort of pleasurable waste of time, empty, shallow calories for your eyes. Now, if we allow ourselves to imagine that audiences come to shows to see what glorious creation you have to offer the world, we then, even if that is what we think, then we should aim to live up to this. The impress me attitude is a natural state when someone has asked for attention. If we're going, look at me. So this is why in circus or acts, when we are structuring them, that we have such tried and trusted tropes as do your second best trick first and your best trick last. Like we want to impress them early on and put them at ease. So first impressions are important, but we still want to blow them away in the end. Impress them first by fulfilling some kind of expectation they might have had of you. If you're a comedian, you want to make them laugh as soon as possible, ASAP. If you're a magician, you want something magical to happen sooner rather than later. unless you bring them a character. All of these can be broken, but you want to put them at ease. Of course, there are great examples of artists who does not follow this, but they are usually masters of the craft, like the Upside Down clone Tim Caldwell, who opens the show by saying, "We got your money now, we don't care what you feel about the show," who can present themselves with such an air of interest and good intent that you don't immediately need to prove yourself. The important point here is that we want to invite them into a bigger dialogue than they expected. The aim of the illuminated showman is ultimately, as lofty as it might sound, to create a meaningful existence for ourselves and our audience. And this is not something which is easily or quickly accomplished. Perhaps it is not even something which is accomplished or finished at all, not in seeing a show or even in life. Both of those. The pursuit of a rich and meaningful life is a process, an ongoing unfolding in time. What we aim for is that each little encounter should count and add up to the overall enrichment of human experience. Each meeting is worthy of respecting and to be recognized. Viewed in this way, respect and recognition is a contemplative and even meditative process. It is a reordering and reflection on the true interconnected nature of the audience and ourselves. It is a recognition of the deeper and most beautiful aspects of human nature, and in the process of taking another look, we will see them not as instruments to get us somewhere, but as opportunities to experience a sacred and fantastic engagement. By internalizing the recognition and the respect of the audience as full human beings, our actions, skills, and stories, our material, will come across as truthful and relevant to your audience. And when you really see your audience, when they get the feeling that you speak to them as complete human beings, your creative connection with them becomes intensely powerful. And this is the kind of attitude one needs to cultivate, to step into the space where true transformation and illumination is possible. This is the place where great shows happen. It always strikes me when I'm doing these more esoteric or sort of, I guess this is kind of also like an exercise. It's the way to look at the world, and it's a way to look at your craft and a way to look at your show, and it is fundamental in the way that as an attitude that I take towards life. So some of these things that are the deepest and most fundamentals, I always feel like, is this useful? Is it practical enough? And I mean, whether it will be for you, I don't know, but it has been very useful and practical for myself. So now please tell people about this podcast. I think it can be valuable to someone that you love. I think it can be to another fellow performer, someone that you know that haven't heard of it, that might benefit from increasing the understanding of what they do or the depth of what they do. Someone who's already at the peak of their career, or perhaps somebody who's a little bit lost along the way, someone who's gone to a circus school and now don't know what they're going to do with their life because they're making coffees in the shop or whatever they are. Like we all struggle, particularly in the beginning of our careers. And think of someone like that, someone that you love. Send them a link to one of your favorite episodes. That would be a huge favor to me. Until next time, I hope you do exquisitely well, that the gigs are abundant, and that your what the world gives you, it will be amazing and more than you could had thought that you would get. So until next time, take care of yourself and those you love, and I really hope to see you along the way.